Hi, everyone. This is Heather Vickery, and you have tuned in to the Brave Files podcast. I just have to say this, y'all. Our youth, they're going to save us. And I can't wait for you to meet today's guest, Dhruv Pai. For many people, COVID-19 ushered in a profound sense of loneliness, hopelessness, and even uselessness. But for this 16-year-old young man, the pandemic was also an opportunity to help his community in an incredibly extraordinary way. Dhruv got involved with volunteer clubs in middle school as a way to make new friends. And by the time the pandemic hit, in his sophomore year of high school, he was primed and ready to start his own nonprofit. Yep, you heard that right. This young man collaborated with some friends and founded his own nonprofit organization. It's called Teens Helping Seniors, and you're going to hear all about it and learn all about it in the episode. But what started as a local operation in Montgomery County, Maryland, is now an international nonprofit organization, and each chapter is completely run by teens. This is amazing. This kid is amazing. What they're doing is amazing. And I'm really, really excited to share it with you. So let's go meet Dhruv.
Curious, altruistic, and innovative.
This is Heather Vickery, and you're listening to The Brave Files, stories from people living courageously. When we choose bravely in big and small ways, it powerfully elevates our lives. I hope these stories connect with you and encourage you to embrace bravery in every possible way, day after day. Together, we can build a movement of courageous living that enriches both our lives and our communities. And if you enjoy the show, I ask you to please share it with others. Maybe think of someone who you want to choose bravely right alongside you. Thanks for tuning in. Now here's the show. In case you were wondering, if I have the coolest job in the world, let me assure you, I actually do. Why? Well, because I get to meet some of the most interesting, brave people on the planet, and I get to share their stories with you. So we are now a full year into living through a pandemic. And through my coaching program, Intentionally Brave Entrepreneurs, I've seen person after person get creative and inventive as hell. I've seen them struggle, reinvent, and try again. I've seen folks support one another in unprecedented ways. And we have now even seen our youth stepping up in ways that I'm not sure we could have ever fully imagined. So for some people, the pandemic offered up opportunities that they couldn't probably have imagined themselves stepping into prior to this. And so I'd like you to meet this week's guest, Dhruv Pai. He is a student in the STEM Magnet program in, what's the name of your school, Dhruv?
Montgomery Blair High School in Silver Spring.
Montgomery Blair High School in Silver Springs, Maryland. And he's also the co-founder and president of the international nonprofit organization Teens Helping Seniors, which is something that he formed during this COVID-19 crisis. The organization provides delivery of groceries and medications to seniors and vulnerable populations. Dhruv, I am very excited to have you here.
Yeah, thank you so much. I'm excited to be here.
It took me a moment when we were first scheduling this. My assistant said, "Oh, you've got to work with his school schedule." I'm like, "Oh, yeah. You're saying that a lot these days, aren't you?"
Yeah, luckily online school isn't as much of a hassle.
Oh, that's helpful for sure. So I'm going to admit that your resume is already quite impressive. What grade are you in?
I'm a junior right now.
Okay, you're a junior. And have you always been socially activated, volunteer, fundraising oriented?
I want to tell you yes, but the truth is not so much. Especially in elementary and middle school, it was kind of difficult for me to get involved in public service because it was a really daunting prospect for me. When I heard the words public service, I always went to, people like Doctors Without Borders and total heroes who are out there just putting their lives on the line for the sake of other people. And I wasn't sure if I was ready to do something like that, if I was ready to take on, such a big responsibility at such a young age. And so the truth is, it was difficult for me to start, but I got involved with my local volunteering club at my school. not to volunteer at the beginning, to tell you the truth, but just to meet new people and to get some friends.
Yeah.
And for me, it was really just, a gradual journey from, one experience to the next, transformed from someone who didn't even know what public service meant to someone who loves public service and is willing to do it in his free time.
That's cool, and obviously very well rehearsed. So we're going to get you out of your well rehearsed podcast comfort zone just a little bit today. But you know what? I love that. First of all, volunteering and social services work is an incredible way to make friends, and it's something that I wish more people would think of in that capacity. The fact of the matter is, if we're really honest with ourselves, nothing's ever selfless. I ask about charity every week in this, and I believe in the importance of giving back and being involved. But we get something out of those involvements, even if it's just new friends, right? And I shouldn't use the word just. Like, it's a big deal.
Yeah, exactly. The importance of, making human connections during volunteering, it cannot be understated. Because when I see people who are willing to volunteer, whether it's adults, whether it's, preteens, whether it's my own peers, I don't see one person going to volunteer. I don't see one person signing up and saying, hey, I want to help out here by myself. Can I work it out? I see groups of people. I see people who, want to meet new people, or people who, already have friends that they want to volunteer with. In my case, I wanted to meet new people. That's why I signed up for volunteering. And so the fact that volunteering is a sort of group exercise not only increases what we get out of it, because, we get to interact with other people, especially during a time like the pandemic when interacting with other people is hard.
Yeah.
But it also increases the value of the volunteering, right? Because the more hands on deck, the more the merrier, right? Because we can help more people.
Many hands make fast work is what my partner says that her mother used to tell her. Okay, well, so you were already involved in this type of extracurricular work once you hit high school, freshman, sophomore year. Is that right?
Yeah, so I started in 7th or 8th grade volunteering at local soup kitchens and homeless shelters, but that was kind of in a sort of follower's role. I was willing to be the so-called sheep. I was willing to do what I was told, and obviously there's nothing wrong with that, but I didn't really see the need, or I didn't really see the opportunity to do something like leadership when it came to volunteering until I hit high school and until those opportunities were presented.
So did they present themselves to you, or did you just happen to seek them out?
Well, actually, they kind of came out of the blue, to tell you the truth.
Okay.
So in 8th grade, I was volunteering with the Red Cross at my local hospital. And so it's this program called Volunteen. And so everyone in the program is teens, and we kind of help doctors out with their everyday tasks. We help veterans because it's a military hospital. Actually, towards the end of the program, one of my friends who I met there, she approached me and said, hey, I'm planning to start a nonprofit, and you seem like you're interested in that sort of thing. Would you be willing to come on board and be something like a brand ambassador? And I was like, whoa, what is that? I've never heard of starting a nonprofit. To me, nonprofits are always these, huge companies that have been well-founded. They've existed for 50 or 100 years. They've been doing their duty for a long time. And so the idea of not only starting a nonprofit, but being part of that new nonprofit completely boggled my mind. And if I hadn't accepted that offer, I would probably be in a very different place right now. But thankfully I did, and I got introduced to something like that.
Absolutely. It's really cool. I mean, I work with adults, professional adults in the corporate environment, and I'm begging them to get involved in nonprofit leadership because there's truly no better way to get leadership skills than on the ground, volunteer type work. I cut my teeth working for the American Cancer Society, and I worked so hard. I worked like ridiculous amount of hours for like $28,000 a year. It was, I'm a lot older than you, so, but even then it wasn't very much money. Even 25 years ago, it wasn't very much money. But I created their Young Professionals Board. And so we were meeting, and these were, again, young professionals, people in their 20s and early 30s, but we were meeting in bars. We were hanging out. You're too young for bars, but that's okay, right? And making friends. And that eventually led to the whole rest of my life. So you're so ahead of the game, my friend, that you are able to have this experience now.
Can I tell you a little secret when it comes to that?
Absolutely. You can tell me anything you want.
I don't think I'm ahead of the game because what we've seen in this pandemic, what I've seen, even from just the people who I've talked to, is a sort of, renaissance of youth volunteerism, of teen activism. And so I'm not an exception. I'm more of the rule because there are plenty of my peers who are just willing to come on board, willing to make a difference and just, commit to it selflessly and are willing to take leadership in doing so as well. And so my secret's out there now. Hopefully no one exposes me, but there are a lot of people like me out there.
I appreciate that. And I will say that from where I stand, I think generationally, your generation, and I should ask you that. What technically is your generation? Like, what are you labeled
So
as?
we're called Generation Z.
You're Gen Z. Okay.
Often known as the Zoomers to parallel the Boomers.
Yeah. Okay. So that was my guess, Gen Z, but then I didn't know where the cutoff was for Gen Z. It has been my experience that Gen Z is very civic minded, very social justice oriented. And I love that. And that gives me an awful lot of hope. It means that the social justice fight that I've been in all of my adult life is leading to something that's actually going to change the world. And it's all on you kids. So, hey, no pressure. I appreciate that. What has doing this work during the pandemic looked like, and how is it different? I mean, other than you can't be in the same room than when you were doing it before the pandemic.
Yeah, so the organization that I co-founded during the pandemic is called Teens Helping Seniors, and the goal of Teens Helping Seniors is contactless delivery of, groceries, medication, really any necessity to seniors and other vulnerable populations, including veterans and the immunocompromised during the pandemic. And so starting a nonprofit organization was a first for me, but starting one during a pandemic was definitely interesting because, first of all, it's really difficult to get the word out to people, right? Already, you're in this terrible circumstance. Schools are closing down. People are in a panic. And so when the news and the media and everything in life is just filled up with evil, and wherever you look, there's something bad happening, it's hard to make people see the good in things and to make people see the opportunities for helping others, right? And so certainly during this time where it was stressful for me and a lot of my peers, starting a nonprofit organization was really difficult. And doing public service, period, was really difficult because we all have our own unique challenges that we faced during the pandemic. Yeah.
So how did you run your organization differently? I mean, there's so much. Most of the folks who listen to this podcast are adults, well into their adulthood. Although I hope you share it with all your friends and we get this boom of youth listeners. That would make me so joy-filled. But these are things at your young age that they can all take with them into their corporate careers. Like, I actually think y'all are much better at pivoting and being creative and how to make things still function and be fun and pleasurable, which is important, right? Given the constrictions of all of this. So how have you been running this organization given COVID restrictions?
Yeah, so Teens Helping Seniors is, an entirely teen-run organization, as it sounds. And so when we started this organization, we thought it was never going to take off, obviously, because we had seen stories in the news about teens in Florida who are just going to the beach despite stay-at-home, etc., and various other bad examples. So we kind of went in with this mentality like, okay, this is not going to work, but let's give it a shot and let's see what happens. And I think that's the type of mentality that you should really have when going into these things. You shouldn't expect the worst. You should hope for the best, but you should always be prepared for if it doesn't pan out. And you should always have something else you can pivot to. And so we didn't start this with the goal of becoming something international. We didn't even start this with the goal of getting any media attention whatsoever. We started this as a small local high school after-school club, quote-unquote club, because during pandemic times. And so it really started as just a small thing with 4, 5, 6 people from our high school, some other high schools. And then it really transformed because we saw a need. And so I think that's how these things should be, right? They should be need-driven and need-oriented, because what we saw is that we were helping seniors within our county, And then seniors from outside our county just read about our thing in the news and said, this is a service that could be really useful to me. This is something I could use because it's not as expensive as any of the other alternatives, and it's safe. And so we got this need first from other parts of the state, other parts of the country, then even Canada and other countries. And so based on this need, we were able to expand our organization to not only meet the need of the seniors, but also to meet the need of the teens who wanted to help their community during the pandemic, but didn't know how.
I love that so much. There is a need on both ends. That's what we were talking about when we first started the interview, right? As we always, nothing is completely selfless. We get something out of it. And that's not a bad thing. That's a human thing. Okay, but so I really want to know how in the world does a young man like you franchise your nonprofit into different states and even different countries? Like, what did you actually do when you heard there was an interest? You're like, okay, we can think bigger. How does this happen? Like, how did you do it?
So the first step in kind of the process of how we became, the size that we are today is really attracting attention, right? And that's not only like local attention, but it's also attention from, media and the news. And so that was one of the major hurdles when we started the organization, because we were a small organization, no one had heard of us, and frankly, it was just kids, right? No one would think kids can do something like this.
Yeah.
And so it wasn't until we got our first article published in local media that we were able to expand, because people read about it and people reached out to us. But when we started expanding at, an increasingly rapid rate, and then we started expanding into other states, the question really posed itself, how are we going to manage this organization? How are we, once again, kids who have a school schedule, have to do homework, how are we going to do something like this with the few volunteers that we had? And the solution was to shift it from, the traditional approach of an organization just being one solid sort of, conglomerate of different people and different activities to something less centralized, to something decentralized. And so instead of having one Teens Helping Seniors, right, in Montgomery County, that's our only Teens Helping Seniors, what we did is we gave each city, we gave each state the tools it needed to start its own Teens Helping Seniors. And the teens who lived in Arizona and New York and California, those teens who had reached out to us, who were driven to, make a change in their community, they took those tools and they started their own Teens Helping Seniors there, and they were able to make their own change within their community. And so instead of having, this traditional approach during the pandemic where there's only one organization, we have each chapter doing its own separate thing, because our logic was each chapter knows its community the best, right? The people living in that community know what the people in the community need. And so we figured those are the best people to manage that.
I love it so much. And I just have to say that I really wish everyone in every job anywhere could say, those of you on the ground know how to do this better than the rest of us do. Like, if we could just build something really great and then find really great people that believe in it and trust them to do their jobs, what a difference the world would be. I'm so excited that you and your friends and the people who work with you are going to lead our country, because we need it. That's for sure. Okay. We just, right before we started recording, you were sharing with me that one of my past guests, and this is just a total coincidence, is a mentor of yours, Amy Yontef McGrath. Can you tell me a little bit about that? I love that coincidence.
Yeah, so it was, I think, the middle of 9th grade, and I was invited as MoCo Student Volunteer of the Year, and that same year, Miss Yontef McGrath won Adult Big Person Volunteer of the Year. And so at that, at the sort of convention or at the sort of meeting, I was able to actually get to know Miss McGrath. We exchanged, contact information. And so when I wanted to start my own organization and, when I wanted to get involved in public service at a level that I had never done so before, I knew the first person I should reach out to, right? Because I was there when I heard her inspiring story in person. I got to talk to her in person. And I have to say that she's really an amazing person, and she's really inspiring for me.
She is.
And I wouldn't have been able to do this, without her advice and without her guidance.
I love that. Mentorship is one of the most important and honestly undervalued things in our lives. And what I don't want to make assumptions, but you saw her speak and you met her and she gave you her phone number, but a lot of people are legitimately afraid to then take action. It takes a certain level of confidence, self-trust, or just plain grit to say, I'm going to call this lady who I think is really cool and who has done this amazing stuff because I want this to succeed. And I know that I need to talk with someone who knows what they're doing to help me do that.
Yeah, sometimes you kind of meet these people in life who have an idea where they're going and have an idea of who they want to be. And so you just kind of want to be swept along in their current. You want to be a part of that. And so that's kind of the sense I got when I first met Miss McGrath.
That is cool. So speaking of that, who do you want to be? Like, what are your dreams for the future? You've still got another year and a half of high school, and what do you see for yourself?
So I think it's, for me, especially when I was growing up, there was a very traditional career choice in my culture, and so it was
and what
doctor
culture
or engineer.
Is that? What
I'm
is your
from India.
Okay.
And so it was doctor or engineer. And so I had a lot of education in STEM, in science, and even to this day. And then one day I was, sitting in maths class, and I was like, okay, when is this? I was thinking in the back of my head, when is this going to get over so I can go out and hang out with my friends? And I was like, when is this ever going to be useful, right? When is the stuff I'm learning ever going to be useful? And that's a pretty common thought, for students to have.
I have 2 high schoolers. It's a very common thought.
And then I was like, what if I could use this somehow to help people for volunteering? Like, what if I could, instead of, sitting in some ivory tower, writing up publications that probably aren't going to help people, what if I could actually use what I'm learning to make a change in the world? What if I could use science and technology to create solutions to better people's lives? And so that's kind of my goal. Obviously, there's no major in college for it yet, but I guess I would call it an empathy scientist or a scientist for empathy.
Oh my gosh.
I don't know. I'm just throwing that out there.
I think we have the title for our episode, Empathy Scientist. That's so cool. But you know what? I think maybe that the degree there is some sort of entrepreneurial degree, right? Like, because it's the business stuff that you have to, it sounds like you got the rest of it locked up. You got to figure out how to build this business and the technology that you want. But plenty of schools will let you design your own major if you don't already know that. Let me go ahead and tell you that right now. So you can build it any way you want. And it sounds like you know that. I don't think you need anybody to say, what the world is your oyster. You can do anything. You've done it. I did an interview a couple of years ago with a magician. She's a German hypnotist and magician, which is just funny. Isn't that a funny thing to say? It's just like I had a giggle every time I said she's a really neat lady. And I had just published my first book at the time. And I had mentioned publishing the book. And she said, oh, Heather, you're a magician too. She said, you took something that was invisible and you made it visible. You're magic. And that's what I would say to you. Like, your ability to see the unseeable thing and then create it is such a gift. And I hear you saying that your generation is on this and they've got it. And I hope you're right. But I'm here to tell you, not everybody has that. Not everybody has the grit and the visibility to come up with something in their head and then build it and then franchise it and then go, yeah, I'm not going to do this thing that my family told me I always had to do. I'm going to save the world instead. Like, that's special.
Yeah, well, to be fair, I just want to clarify that I don't think you should think of it as necessarily a gift or a talent, but it's something that you can work on and it's something that you can improve, right?
It's true.
And just simply by engaging with other people and simply by helping them out, you can start to see connections between, what you're learning in school, or how your job experience is going, or what you're doing at the workplace, and what you can actually do to impact people's lives, and how to help people. And after you spend enough time in those environments, that connection will just become, common sense to you.
Yeah, I dig it. I mean, there's a lot of science behind empathy and courage being skill sets that you can develop. So, your social emotional awareness is like mind blowing to me right now. It's very cool. Did they teach you this in your school, or is it come from your parent? Like, I do this for a living professionally, and I don't even think my own kids could regurgitate that. So, how do you know this?
I don't think it was anything, outstanding. I got to talk to and I got to meet some amazing people, Miss Yontif McGrath included, obviously. And through those experiences and through those bonds I forged, I was able to sort of grow. And I know that's a strange thing for a teenager to say, but
No, it's not.
It's true.
Yeah.
It's
not
really
strange.
the people that I've met along the journey that have made the journey what it is.
Well, you are quite humble, and that's admirable, but I will tell you that you also have a really unique vision, and that's okay. It's okay to tell you that and say not everybody has that, because you will light that fire in other people. If you keep doing what you're doing and modeling that behavior, you will light people up with that. But somebody has to start, my friend, and you're on the path. What do your parents think of this?
My parents actually were sort of the ones who even gave me the idea to step up and start volunteering to begin with. And so they've been completely supportive of the whole idea, and they enjoy the idea of an empathy scientist in their family. And so they can go to these
well, you
family
add the word
gatherings.
scientist, and then you can check that box, right?
Yeah, exactly. They can go to family gatherings and tell the other parents, oh, my son, he's a family scientist. Not family, empathy scientist.
My son's an empathy scientist. I love that. And I love that for your parents. If we have young folks listening, and again, I don't know how big that audience is unless you share this, or parents, and that I know we have, what would you recommend is one of the easiest ways for folks to just sort of dip their toes into being more on the forefront of work like this?
And it's a difficult question to answer because it really varies from person to person. But one underlying current is I think that everyone should understand that it doesn't have to start out that way. Like, you don't have to start out as someone who loves volunteering or necessarily even likes it, right? It's something that can be worked on, and it's something that is not a talent or a gift, but it's a skill. And so that's what I would say to parents and kids who are watching this, is to really think of empathy, to think of altruism, and to think of interacting with other people as less of something that can't be changed about you, or less of something that's given, but something that can be worked on, something that can be honed with time. And eventually, if you work at it and if you truly value it, you will find that these skills and these abilities just, come hand in hand.
Yeah, I like that. I like it. I like it a lot. So one of the questions that I really love asking, and I'm so curious to hear your answer, is how you like to celebrate. Now, let me just tell you why I ask that question, because I believe my mentor used to say to me, celebration is a lost art, but celebration and gratitude are partners. And when we celebrate and express happiness and joy, it bleeds into gratitude, and it's contagious. And so learning how others celebrate and what they deem worthy of celebration is such a gift that we give our listeners every week. And so I'm very curious to hear your answer on this. How do you celebrate? And what do you celebrate?
So celebration isn't really something that comes naturally to me, especially because, the way I was raised, the school I was raised in, it was very competitive, right? And so the nature of that was, okay, you got an accomplishment, but the goal of that accomplishment is you should compare yourself to others. You should compare your accomplishments to other accomplishments, so you can kind of gauge your self-worth. And
I hope you've changed that perspective for yourself. Yeah. Okay, good.
It wasn't really, honestly, it was something I imposed on myself, right? It was a way I viewed the world. And it wasn't really something that society put on me. But I had to, after sort of maturing a bit, I've kind of realized that it's not so much about comparing yourself to others. And so that's when I've been able to find the joy in celebration. And so for how exactly I celebrate, I'd say the easiest way for me and the most common way, especially during pandemic, is just spending time with my loved ones. And by loved ones, I mean specifically, so I have 2 cats. Their names are Kit Kat and Snickers. I love them more than almost anything in the world. And when I grow up, I'm going to be one of those crazy cat people with a house full of cats. And wherever you walk in their house, you just feel cats rubbing your leg. And you think, what can they do with this many cats? But yeah, I love cats so much. It's my release. It's my celebration. Don't ask me why.
If you want to be an empathy scientist, I'll teach you a little bit of something. Well, you're a pretty smart kid. You probably already know this, but petting an animal like that is one of a small list of things that stimulates your parasympathetic nervous system. And when you stimulate your parasympathetic nervous system, it decreases stress, anxiety, and depression.
Interesting.
So maybe it's your self-medication. Let me pet this animal and I'm going to feel more relaxed or more joyful. I love that. Okay, so you celebrate by loving on your cats. Is that it? That's okay if it is.
Let me think. Oh, yeah. I also enjoy doing some art. And so I'm not great at art. So most people who say they're artists are actually good at art. Like they can draw things, they can paint things. I'm not actually good at art. But I like to say I'm an artist because I enjoy doing it.
Art is subjective. My 7-year-old will tell you there's no way to do art wrong.
True, if you consider abstract art. But at least by my standards, my own art is not beautiful. And I'm sure by any artist's standards, they wouldn't think that their art is beautiful. But these paintings back here were actually painted by my grandfather. And he was an artist. He's retired now. But he sort of inspired me to try to get into art as sort of a release. And so I try to do that to celebrate sometimes. Truthfully, all that comes out is some stick figures and garbled text. But I find it's a good way to celebrate for myself, at least.
I love that. It's very meditative. Again, I think it's all very subjective. And even if it's just personal, that's awesome. Does your organization have any systems in place for celebrating hard work from volunteers or starting a new chapter or any of that? How do you instill this wonderful level of emotional intelligence and empathy by leading by example with your community?
So especially for, my nonprofit, Teens Helping Seniors, the biggest way we felt that we could celebrate someone's efforts is to recognize them on, an organization scale, but also to just, spread the word of the awesome work they're doing as far as possible. And so we have a blog page on our website. We talk about Volunteer of the Week almost every single week. And so we've also featured volunteers on our social media. And so a lot of these volunteers have really inspiring stories. They have their own individual stories of maybe working with 1 or 2 seniors and just going out of their way to make that senior's life better and to make their deliveries better. And so we like to celebrate by, having Zoom calls and just, kind of like surprise happy birthday, but with surprise, your volunteer of the week, something
cool.
like that. And often it's a little bit cheesy, but that's the cool part about celebration, right? When it's done with a lot of people and they're all sincere about it, it's one of the best experiences in the world.
Absolutely, it is. Do you have a chapter? I live in the Chicagoland area. Do you have a chapter out here? Yeah,
we do have a chapter in Chicago.
All right.
Yeah. Furthermore, if for anyone who's listening on the podcast, if you don't have a chapter or you want to get involved in your local chapter, then you can reach out to us. Just go to teenshelpingseniors.org. We'll put you in touch, and we'll give you all the tools that you need.
Awesome. Is there an age requirement to be involved in your organization?
So it did start out as Teens Helping Seniors, to tell you the truth, but it is no longer teens helping seniors. It is now more of preteens, teens, college students, adults, and seniors helping seniors, which is a bit of a mouthful. So we decided not to change the name.
I know. I love the name, and I love that it's inclusive enough because I have an 11-year-old that I suspect will be all over this. So that was one of the reasons I was asking. I mean, I have 4 daughters, and I'd like to say they'd all be all over it, but this one is my civic-minded most child. I love it. I love what you're doing. I love your drive. I love the way you communicate and the way you ask for what you want, and you're a magician. You are magic, and so are the people you work with. It's beautiful.
Sorry, where did you say you were from again?
So this is a weird thing that folks in Chicago, I'm actually just outside of Chicago in Forest Park, Illinois. And we say stupid things like Chicagoland. It's like even includes part of Northwest Indiana. I don't really know why. Does anybody listening know why the hell we call it Chicagoland? It's really dumb, but that is what we call it.
Okay, yeah, sorry, because I mistook your location. We don't have a chapter in Chicago. And so
You
your
don't?
daughters would be potentially, great founders of a Teens Helping Seniors chapter, or really anyone, or even yourself.
Okay. Even myself. All right. Well, I love it. I will talk to some of the folks I know and see if we can get something off the ground in this area. I think that would be really great. So other than Teens Helping Seniors, I know you're very civic-minded and you do a lot of other volunteer work. Actually, before I ask this question, how do you have time to run your own nonprofit and to be a junior in high school? And I know what the workload is for a junior in high school, and do other stuff and also be a kid. How do you do it all?
So during the pandemic, this wasn't as much of an issue because school was less of an issue.
Right.
But especially now, for me and for a lot of our volunteers, school does take up a significant amount of time. But I think the trick is, and this is a cliche, but it's true. I can't repeat it enough. It's about finding time, right? Because even if we look within our day, I have school from, let's say, 8 to 4, right? And so that leaves me, 6 hours to do what I'm interested in, to do whether it's volunteering, or whether it's talking to my friends or celebrating, anything of the sort. And if you look at it from the mentality that, oh, I have only 6 hours left, what am I going to do? As opposed to the mentality of, oh my God, I have 6 hours. What can I do? And so I think it's that sort of shift in mentality that makes it all happen.
I love that mindset perspective. That people pay a lot of money to learn how to do that as adults. So I'm going to say again, I think you are ahead of the game a little bit, my friends. I think that is lovely. The rest of us are like, oh my God, I've been on friggin' Zoom from 8 to 4 and all I want to do is nothing. Don't talk to me anymore. So I think it's beautiful. I love it. All right. So what is your favorite charitable organization to support other than your own?
Yeah. So I think I mentioned earlier, so I volunteer with the Red Cross at a hospital every summer. And so it would be great if, I don't know, people listening to the podcast can support the Red Cross because I truly enjoy working for them. I got to meet a lot of new people. I got to meet some of my closest friends. And so it's been one of my greatest, experiences in volunteering so far. And so if you can give however little to the Red Cross, just know that, your donations or whatever you're giving is really going to make a big difference.
Thank you for that. So the Red Cross and Teens Helping Seniors will be our charity of the week this week that the episode airs. We're going to give y'all lots of love. And I ask my listeners always, give what it is that you can give, whether it's time, money, social media shares, likes, introducing other people to the organization. Any of that counts. Every bit of it is valuable. So thank you for sharing that with us. Dhruv, will you give us your 3 words one last time, please?
Sure. Curious, altruistic, and innovative.
And indeed you are. Indeed you are. I have loved this conversation. I've loved getting to know you. I'm so inspired by you and what you're bringing to the world. So thank you so much for being here.
Yeah, thank you so much for the opportunity to speak on this podcast.
Listeners, if you were worried about the state of our future, Just let this conversation put your mind at ease. Just show up and do the work and keep believing, because our kids have got it covered. These kids are amazing. You can do anything. You can do anything. If you dream it, you can build it, you can create it and invent it. It doesn't matter what it is. It does require vision. It requires community, connection, and hope. And I hope that you are as tickled and inspired by this conversation as I am. If you would like to be part of a community of adults, I'm sorry, I'm not a high schooler, but of adults that are really into doing this on a grand scale with their life and their business, come hang out with us in my Facebook collective, Brave on Purpose. We are a group of folks who are 100% committed to leveraging our fears into intentional bravery, because what we know for sure is that when we choose bravely on purpose, we choose bigger, we win bigger, and it's contagious. So just visit Facebook, search Brave on Purpose, answer 3 simple questions, and voila, you're in. Easy, free, wonderful community. Thank you so much for being here with me and for being part of our little Brave community. This is Heather Vickery reminding you today and every single day to go out and choose bravely. Hey friends, I want to share something really exciting with you. We already know you enjoy listening to podcasts because you're listening to this one, but I'm also betting you enjoy audiobooks. And hey, listen, if you don't already enjoy audiobooks, then it's time to check them out. That's why I'm really excited to share Libro.fm with you. They are an incredible new platform for listening to audiobooks. And by choosing Libro.fm over other audiobook services, you are supporting a local bookstore of your choice and investing in your local community. Libro.fm offers over 150,000 audiobooks via their primary platform, which, by the way, they built with love and from scratch because they're a small business also. They even offer bookseller recommendations for great audiobook options. You can sign up right now via www.vickeryandco.com/LibroFM. That's vickeryandco.com/LIBROFM. And when you do, you'll get 1 free audiobook of your choice, and the proceeds will go to your favorite local bookstore. Now, check what I just said there. You're going to get a free book, and the proceeds are still going to go to your local bookstore because Libro.fm makes sure that their booksellers get paid even when they give a promo to customers. I've listened to over 20 audiobooks this year alone. I especially love listening to memoirs read by the author, and it feels great knowing that all of my purchases support my local bookstore, The Book Table, in Oak Park, Illinois. Libro.fm. The same audiobooks, the same price, but a completely different story. Check them out right now at vickeryandco.com/LibroFM. Have you ever thought about starting a podcast? Maybe you've had this thought and then quickly shut it down because who has the time? Or you don't know how, or gosh, it just all seems too hard. If you have something to share with the world, we want to encourage you to get your message out. The world needs to hear it. Did you know that 50% of all homes are podcast fans? If you've ever wondered about having your own podcast or how it can increase your business or get your message across, then please join me and the other experts from the Podcast Power Academy for our monthly free Q&A session. It's called So You Want to Start a Podcast? This casual live conversation will help you understand how podcasting can be a great decision, why now is the best time to get started, and how to get into action with it. Visit podcastpoweracademy.com to learn more. You've been listening to The Brave Files, stories of people living courageously. To learn more about the show, find our show notes and full episode transcripts, or to get some great bonus content, visit thebravefilespodcast.com. And we would love to know what you think of the show. You can give us a call at 312-646-0205. Let us know your thoughts on the episode, the show in general, or maybe share with us how you're out choosing bravely. This episode is brought to you by Vickery & Co. Success Coaching. Coaching that helps you maintain a life well lived and a business well run. Learn more at vickeryandco.com. Our music was created and produced in a custom collaboration with Matt Lewis from ML Creative Consulting, a boutique firm dedicated to helping clients identify their unique sound and amplify their brand with custom delivered soundtracks. We couldn't do any of this without our extraordinary audio engineer, Andrew Olson. Learn more about him and check out his work at findandrewolson.com. And special thanks to everyone on Team Brave, from our producers, associate producers, copy editors, writers, and support team. Special thanks to Molly, Mary, Kim, Sabra, and Sabrina. I'm your host and executive producer, Heather Vickery. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll talk to you next week.